Very good morning to you and a warm welcome into the third hour of Newsfeed. So, over 2 million people have since been vaccinated in the country since the inoculation program began in February. The rollout has experienced some setbacks, while the number of people infected by COVID-19 daily, those numbers, they continue to soar. Well, last week, President Cyril Ramaphosa moved the country to level 3 of the lockdown to help prevent the spread of the virus, a move which has been slammed by the economic freedom fighters. Party President Julius Malema says members must defy the lockdown regulations until South Africans get vaccines. Well, he joins me in studio to talk about the issues around COVID-19 and other matters of national importance. Mr. Malema, thank you very much for making time to join us here. Once again, the country at the moment is on tenterhooks. The numbers of people who are being infected, they are escalating daily. In Gauteng, there's a command council meeting where talk of possibly taking the province into lockdown level 5 might just be a consideration. Is that something that you would support?
Well, we won't support that. For what purpose? Because the purpose of the lockdown is to allow the state to prepare health facilities, including, amongst others, procuring vaccine, so that when you open the country, you can vaccinate people, you can also have more health facilities available. We agreed to that from the beginning. We said, let's close the country. We called for harsher lockdowns. We supported level 5, and we supported the president throughout. What happened in return? The president slept on his job. He didn't do anything. He didn't do anything that is supposed to be done during lockdown. So it looks like the ANC strategy is that lockdown is a solution to corona. And we cannot allow that. It cannot be a solution. We went into lockdowns. We wanted more hospitals prepared. We came out of lockdowns with 1 hospital short. So instead of building more, we had 1 burning down. We are less than what we had before lockdown, which is a complete opposite of what lockdown seeks to achieve.
In fact, the hospital that you talk about, which is 1 hospital down after the lockdown, that's Charlotte Maxeke. The understanding is that there are actually potentially about 3. You have some that are suffering water shortages, which means that they can't admit some of the patients. So, but I guess the solution has to do with what you are proposing to say, let's vaccinate as many people as is possible. Your sense of how the government has fared thus far in acquiring vaccines, because it's not just South Africa's problem alone. There are other countries who are suffering the same effects in terms of vaccine availability.
No, we've been very stupid. Ours has been a complete stupid program. AstraZeneca came here with expiring date that was about to happen in the next 3 weeks. That no world suffered that. We suffered that because we were led by fools. We inspected a paper that was supposed to tell them this thing is not in good condition before it left India. We are throwing away 2 million doses now from J&J. No country has suffered that. So from the handling of this vaccine program, it has been one mess after another. And it's very clear there's no program by government to vaccinate our people, because other countries, they don't have vaccine because they can't afford, because of vaccine apartheid, where the rich get the vaccine and get more than what they actually require, to the exclusion of the poor countries. That's fair enough. But we are not part of that. Our government could not structure proper deals during lockdown and process all what was required, so that by the time we open, we've got enough. Why are we not having a Sputnik? Why are we not having Sinovac? Why is Sputnik taking long? Because according to SAPRA regulations, when you apply for emergency use, it's 48 hours. The people who are supplying Sputnik have applied from last year. Till to date, it's not approved. And Sputnik were told that actually they'd offered us 15 million doses in March, if not February, this year. The president is aware of that. These matters were presented before him. They are not ready to entertain it. And yet Sputnik is being used in more than 60 countries. Sinovac is used in China. 800 million people were vaccinated using Sinovac. Yeah. They are not dying. Yet J&J has been approved. Its efficiency, we're told there are problems. It causes blood clot, there's contamination. There's always issues around J&J, yet it's not discontinued. Yeah. AstraZeneca had issues, including its efficiency. It was 20%, yet it is approved. What is it that Sputnik and Sinovac have which are worse than J&J and AstraZeneca?
You're talking to issues that have to do with the regulator. We're going to get to that in just a moment. But linking back to our earlier discussion about what needs to be done right now, someone listening to you is saying the EFF leader is making a lot of sense. But here comes the problem. And I just want to quote you. On the 10th of June, you say these words: "We reiterate our call, despite our readiness for the 2021 elections, to be postponed in the interest of saving lives." That's a statement you made on the 10th. On the 16th, this is Youth Day. From now on, we don't comply with nonsense until he gives us vaccines and vaccinates our people. To a person who's listening to these comments for the first time today, try and reconcile these two statements for them and try and, so that they make sense to you.
We don't comply with lockdowns. We comply with coronavirus protocols. I've got a mask here. You don't even have a mask yourself. So I've got a mask. It's in your pocket. Fair enough. So we comply with coronavirus protocols, but we don't comply with nonsense of people who are trapping us in our houses so that they can enjoy the political space without being questioned, without being challenged. He's happy to ban politics in South Africa and not go to parliament and not be held accountable and say in parliament we can't meet physically, but he goes and meet his friends in England at G7 physically, but he can't meet here at home physically. He suppressed political activity here at home physically. So what is that? The man is enjoying not being held accountable because the media is not holding him accountable. Parliament is not holding him accountable because the method used makes it practically impossible to hold him accountable.
Okay,
it is more of politics than the issue of resolving the issue of coronavirus, including money.
Okay.
It's more about transactions.
Now here's the issue.
Yes.
You're saying that people must go on the streets and protest. You're saying that people must not comply with the regulations, which is the law of the country right now. That's surely not a responsible statement to make, because you're gambling with the lives of people who cannot afford probably medical aid that you and I probably have right now.
You sound like an apartheid journalist who was saying we're gambling with the lives of people when we called upon them to defy apartheid, which was law, by the way. A law that is stupid is not law at all. It's not worth respecting. And if that means we are going to die, let's die because we're already dead. So we are living on our knees.
So how is it sensible that you take out these people, as you propose now to do, to go outside the SAPRA offices on Friday? What is going to be achieved by that protest? Because, by the way, SAPRA says the reason they are unable to fast-track the processing of these vaccines that you've mentioned is because of data that has not been readily available, scientific data that is, so that they are sure that they are going to allow for vaccines that are of good quality.
That is for trials. When you do emergency use, you do that within 48 hours. The Sputnik people have complied with that. It's a complete lie. It's a lie in defense and in promotion of J&J, because Helen Rees is part of Aspen, and the husband is there, and we know that they also some of the Aspen people contributed to CR17. They said so themselves. So it's more of business than any other thing. There are two processes which must not be confused. There is an emergency use and there is trials. So the requirements are completely different. That's why they allow a 48-hour emergency approval of such a facility. So it's a complete lie. And everything else that Sputnik has been asked to comply with, they've complied. The problem is that always there is shifting of goalposts. There is no irresponsible statement, by the way, being made. You are saying I'm making an irresponsible statement by saying to the people, march to demand vaccine and save life. But you have never said to your president who's your favorite. He's actually irresponsible by allowing mine workers to go and work underground. More than 5,000 people go underground in one mine per day. You have never said to the president he's irresponsible. The kids are at school as we speak now. Our schools have got huge populations. They are meeting there every day. You have never called them irresponsible because they are your favorites. I'm calling for a meeting once off, and in less than 2 hours we are done to raise the plight of our people and say, let's put aside business transactions and give our people the vaccines which are available and can be provided in huge numbers. I'm being called irresponsible. You're saying for pure purpose of defending a capital and Western and American interest in this country. No, that's not entirely true, what you are saying right now. Because when you say you're not going to only march to the offices of SAPRA, you're going to sleep there. And should that not come to pass, that they give you a satisfactory answer, 5 days later you're going to take the protest and sleep outside the house of the CEO. That's not a once-off. No, it's a once-off. The one at SAPRA offices is happening on Friday. It's done. The mines will be meeting every day, underground, without ventilation. That's fine. We are going to meet again once-off at Helen Rees' home after 7 days if we don't get a positive response. Different constituency, different people, different locations. How do you know it's different constituencies? It's me who mobilizes them. You don't know them. Are you able to tell us how many are going to be out in the streets? No. In terms of numbers? We need huge numbers. Whatever number we can get, which will not come anywhere close to what SAB Breweries now is having in their own factories, what Coca-Cola is having in its own offices, what steel companies are having as we speak now in their own offices. You have never compared that. Here is a protest that is going to take place in an outdoor place where ventilation is guaranteed, where there is sun, we're in the open, they are low risk. You have a problem with that. But you don't have a problem with people who are meeting every day in this country, assembled by capital, because yours is to defend the interests of capital and not the lives of our people. We are not going to sit back and allow Cyril to gamble with the lives of our people. We're going to the streets and we'll be there for some few hours compared to what examples I've given you, which you never challenged, by the way, which you never said. Why are the mines meeting? Why is big factories meeting? Why are the taxis full? Why are the buses full? Why are the planes full? Why? You know why I didn't ask? It is in the interest of capital. And in this country, you don't challenge capital. You challenge those who challenge capital. It's in the interest of saving jobs as well. Yes, the virus is present, but people have got to have an income. At least you're saving jobs. I want to save lives. It is in the interest of saving lives. The march is in the interest of saving lives. We are going to continue this conversation in just a moment. Other topics on offer. VBS, I'm sure that is going to also interest you. We continue the conversation with the EFF leader, Julius Malema, in a minute. Very good morning to you once again. If you're just joining us, we are in conversation with the leader of the Economic Freedom Fighters Party, Julius Malema. Mr. Malema, before we move on from the topic of the COVID-19, when that time comes, by the way, when everybody now has access to the vaccine,
Will you be vaccinated?
Yes, I'll be the first one on the queue.
And you'll take
as long as my people are being vaccinated, I will not have a problem taking a vaccine. But I will have a problem of being invited into corners to come be vaccinated, whereas I know that my people will not have access to vaccine. The president is vaccinated, Minister of Health is vaccinated, prominent people, leaders in their own right are vaccinated. That's why they do not care about our people. We are going there on Friday to demand that vaccinate our people and open the economy. The artists are supposed to be the first one on the line because they are the most affected. No gatherings are allowed. Church leaders are supposed to be the first on the line because no church gatherings are allowed. So they must join on Friday to demand that our people be vaccinated and will comply with COVID-19 regulations when it comes to how we need to conduct ourselves when we're in public.
They may
not with Cyril Ramaphosa's regulations.
They may comply with COVID-19 regulations, but that doesn't tell us whether the march itself is legal. Have you obtained permission?
We don't need permission to march in South Africa, by the way. You don't need the permission. You don't. You notify. There's a difference between notifying and getting a permission. We have a right to protest enshrined in the Constitution, protected by the Constitution. We require nobody's permission to protest in this country. We've notified the authorities. We've notified SAPRA. There's no way where the law says you must get a permit to protest in South Africa. There's no such a thing.
The other protest that you proposed on the 10th
yes,
was the march. It wasn't a march. It was a shutdown of schools.
Yes.
You seem to be tapering.
No, we are engaging. We are engaging with the Department of Education. We are in constant interaction. I'm happy that MEC of Gauteng Education is conceding that we cannot continue business as usual. She comes, NG, from nowhere and says, no, we've got 25,000 schools in South Africa, and then only 100 schools are affected. But we close the country when the levels of infected people were very low compared to the population. So NG is waiting for more than half of 25,000 to be infected first before. What type of science is that? The scientific analysis will tell you the behavioral patterns of this disease, and you should be able to see that if we do not close down, a lot will be infected by this disease. They are not listening to science. They are using politics and they are using business interests. Totally, we are irresponsible. But your president said we are going to elections on the 27th of October. No one has challenged that. He's the most loved, the most perfect president. How do you go to elections on the 27th of October when political parties can't campaign? Because elections is not the day of the elections. It's what happens prior to the elections. Yet, the former Deputy Chief Justice, Moseneke, has been given a task to investigate whether this is possible or not. The IEC goes and launch elections. If they are not wasting resources with the launch of that, then they are wasting resources with Moseneke. Either way, why do you launch when you don't know what Moseneke is going to say? If Moseneke comes and says, no, we can't have elections, what a waste of money. Why didn't we don't have that money? We could have procured some few 100 vaccines with that money of the event which was held at high places in Sante. So they are responsible. They are being celebrated. We must be closed in some closet. Don't say politics because you are being irresponsible. No, we are not going to allow that. We gave these people 15 million. Unlike 4 or 5, we contributed, we're not just talking, we contributed 15 million because we believe in the fight of this pandemic. But don't silence us. Don't use a coronavirus pandemic to stifle political activity and debate in South Africa. That's what Cyril is doing. He's slowly becoming a dictator. He doesn't want politics in South Africa, and he's using this unfortunate situation for his personal political benefits.
I don't think anyone can disagree with you, and the important step you took of donating towards the fight against COVID-19, and that you will always be applauded for I don't think anyone argues with you about that. But it does appear that we're not going to agree on this, because you argue on the one hand that the president is politicizing this, but on the other hand there are those who are also of the strong view that the EFF is politicizing the whole COVID situation. But
we've been very nice, my man. We've been very nice. We've been complying with nonsensical things for the sake of making sure that we achieve this. But we're not going to achieve anything. Anyway, you guys like coming to the party very late. We're always early. The people of this country will thank us. By the time we come back from SAPRA, there will be enough doses to vaccinate our people in this country.
Just out of interest, someone listening to you, could this be, because you are a politician at the end of the day,
yeah,
is this a ploy for attention during this quiet period? The EFF needs to be seen to be doing something. We are heading to the election, if indeed Moseneke does give it a thumbs up, as you've said. Is this a ploy for attention?
Well, when we keep quiet, the coronavirus has killed the EFF, is no longer alive. When we talk, we are looking for attention. What must we do? We must just do what we have to do. We are not looking for any attention. We are serious about this matter. We have put money into this thing. We have put our lives into this thing. We have given President enough time to do his work. He has not done his work. I'm waiting for the day where you are going to say, to send human beings underground during pandemic is an irresponsible thing. I'm waiting for that day. It will never come, because you are saving jobs, and jobs are more important than the lives of our people. So I'm not looking for any attention. I'm looking to save the lives of our people. The more people we vaccinate, the more the economy is going to open, more jobs are going to be created. The youth of this country is unemployed. They can't even go out to look for jobs because they are told, stay at home. There is lockdown. Let me tell you, I heard you saying Gauteng is looking at going back to level 5. Not Gauteng. The man is looking at taking us back to level 5 for 21 days, if you don't know. That's what he's considering. Makure has got nothing, man. He's just grandstanding. He has got no power to take this province anywhere in terms of regulations. He's the president himself.
And seeing that you always have things on good authority.
Yes.
So we can quote you on that the president is considering taking the whole country back.
You don't have to quote me, I'm live. The president is considering taking us to level 5 for 21 days. That's what he's doing. He wants to lock us again for 21 days. Level 5. We're not going back there.
All right.
The man has eaten the money of vaccine. His government. They've eaten the PPE's money. They've now eaten the money of the vaccine. Why are they not giving our people vaccine? We don't need another level. We don't need another lockdown. We need vaccine to open the country. Europe is open. The people are watching football from stadiums, which is a clear demonstration that vaccine is the only way out of this mess. And we don't care where that vaccine comes from, whether Russia, whether China, whether America, whether Europe, as long as our people can be saved and they can go back to be active in the economy of South Africa, we're happy with that. And that's what we're demanding.
Let's talk VBS for a moment. Are you aware of the acknowledgement of debt by Brian Shibambu, which was signed sometime last year? Are you aware that he's prepared to pay back 4.5 million of that money?
I think he paid it.
He's already paid it?
He's paid it. I think he paid it.
How should South Africans interpret that?
I don't know. You go interpreting debts and problems of individuals. It's none of my business. None of your business. Concentrate on your problems.
No.
People are paying back.
It can't be none of my business. That was the vendor banking society.
Yes.
Poor people contributed towards that.
A man got a bond from. One of the things that Shibambo paid for, if you don't know, in the 4.5.
Yes.
It's a bond. It's a bond. It's his debt. He's owing the bank, and then he's paying back the money.
And there's a particular clause
there.
Bank. There's a particular interesting clause there that over and above the secrecy around this is that, quote unquote, there is no underlying basis for this payment. What does that tell you?
I don't know. It's their own things, my man. I'm not deep into it. I don't even know the details of it. I've read it in the papers, and I was told that no, they are busy settling one another. One of the things, like I told you, it's a bond. A man is paying a bond. So why must I get involved in people paying bonds? They are paying back what they were going to pay anyway, whether the bank has been liquidated or not. They were paying back the bond. So, and in every clause and agreements and transactions, there are non-disclosures and all types of things. It comes with the practice of business. We do that on a daily basis when we're engaged in transactions. So there's nothing untoward.
Some will say that this is an acknowledgement that he did take the money, that he simply did not deserve, and clearly there were some shady dealings. In your view, when someone comes and says, well, seeing that you're willing to pay back all this money, that's accountability, and part of it says you should actually go and serve time in prison if authorities should come to you. Is that something that you're prepared to support?
No. You know, if you read that thing, they've reached some form of a settlement. So meaning there are things that Brian says, I've provided this service, I've invoiced for it, I've got contracts for it, but you know what, this noise is just too much for me. And I don't want to continue with it. Can we just find one another? There are times where you reach a compromise, including settlements, on issues that you think you are right. But for the sake of progress, let's just settle this and move forward. And that happens all the time. I did that with SARS.
Yeah.
I didn't serve any time in jail. I said to them, look, we've been doing two from. Let's just find one another, even though I still disagree. But for the sake of progress, I've got many issues to deal with. Let's settle this matter and let's move forward.
All right. Well, seeing that he has acknowledged this, and you seem
and it's
to
not
concur,
the whole amount, by the way. That's why it's a settlement.
You seem to concur because, by the way, this is not the first amount, this 4.5. There is a 2.7, 2.9 that was paid much earlier. That, again, was an acknowledgement of some sort of
the guy never
underhandedness.
The guy never disputed that he got money from VBS. He never said, I didn't get money from. He said, I got money from VBS, and I've worked for it. I've done dealings with Vele Investment, and Vele Investment is the one that was paying me.
Yeah.
And the Vele Investment was the biggest shareholder in VBS. So the man did say, I got the money, but I've worked for it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is that someone that you would be willing to welcome back into your party? Is he still a party member, by the way?
I'm not responsible for membership, Shem. Or who's a member, who's not a member.
You leave this party?
No, I am responsible for leaders. If you're saying Vuyani, is he welcome to be a spokesperson or not, I'll deal with that.
So you can't confirm here on the record whether or not Brian Shibambu is a member of the EFF?
I'll make a terrible mistake, Shem. I say he's a member and then he issues a tweet here saying he's not a member. What an embarrassment. Let me save myself. I don't know.
All right.
You should have sent me that question before I come here to verify his membership before, so that I come here.
It's the last thing I would ever do as a journalist. It's the last thing I would ever do.
You're asking me a detail to confirm the authenticity and the legitimacy of the membership of an individual.
Yeah.
Come on, man. I've got 800,000 members. 800,000 in good standing.
All right. We are going to continue with this conversation. The viewers are already also engaging in this conversation. I'm going to put some questions to you that have been forwarded by them. But among other issues that are going to come up is the whole issue of land, the Political Party Funding Act. How's that affecting the economic freedom fighters? That conversation in just a moment. Very good morning to you once again. We are in conversation with the leader of the Economic Freedom Fighters Party, Julius Malema. And just before we went on a short break, I did say that you are already engaging us as we have been prompting you. So let me read one of the questions from someone who goes by the name Dagyuk Mtogozisi, who says, when is your turn to go to the Zondo Commission to testify about VBS looting?
Well, you don't choose to go to Zondo Commission. You know, it's not like going to a social gathering. You get invited if there is evidence that you have done something wrong. So Zondo will not. You know, the newspaper Sunday Times wrote a huge article saying Malema is going to be called to Zondo Commission, the banks of accounts of his grandmother and all of that, they are being summoned. Absolute nonsense. Talking about my grandmother like that when she's no more. Absolute rubbish. I called them, I said, there's no such a thing. They said, you got summons. I said, there's no such a thing. Zondo has asked for extension now. And he gave reasons why. One of the reasons is that Cyril Ramaphosa must come back. This one must come back. There's no Malema there. I will never be called to Zondo Commission. You know why? I'm not corrupt. I'm not corrupt. Only the corrupt will be called there. I established that commission, by the way. I went to court for it. I fought for it. The day Zuma was trying to interdict Madonsela's report, I spoke to her in the evening. And I asked her, Ma, are you going to defend? She says, no, I have not decided as yet. I said, we're going to defend. We're going to defend that you release this report. And it is that report which led to the formation of this commission. When Zuma was reluctant to establish it, we went to court, fought for it to be established. You will never find the leadership of the EFF in corrupt scandals, including VBS. They are trying by all means to link us to the VBS scandal. You know who expelled me from the ANC? It's Cyril Ramaphosa.
We know that.
Derek Harnecom recommended 5 years. Cyril said expulsion. Do you think that Cyril, if he comes across authentic, legitimate information that I'm corrupt, he will leave me to live for 30 seconds? He will not do that. He never doubted, not for a second, when he got an opportunity to cut my head in the ANC. Why would he play with finishing Malema now? Do you think that this capital that controls the judiciary, the prosecuting authority, and the hawks will sit back and allow this troublesome Malema to continue without being arrested if this Malema is corrupt? They control the intelligence. They can get into my accounts. They can get into my wife's account. They can get into my phone, by the way. So they know everything about us. Why are they not arresting this corrupt Malema if he was corrupt? Why are we not asking ourselves that question? Can this Malema be so smart to outsmart the intelligent, including the president and everybody else, including capital in the mines? Remember, mine bosses don't like me. The bank bosses don't like me. These people would have come together at some point and said, let's finish this guy. They wouldn't, because I'm not corrupt.
All right. Talking about issues of outsmarting each other, I'm wondering about the meetings, the reported ongoing meetings between yourself and the leadership of the ANC about the land question. What discussions are taking place there?
Well, we're discussing the phrasing as to what should go into the constitutional amendment. We've had our members in Parliament who are seized with this matter, meeting with members of the ANC who are seized with this matter. They seem not to be making huge progress. And as a result, I called the DSG of the ANC. And in less than a week, she had already given us a green light that there could be officials aside from the EFF and the ANC to discuss these matters. I must say that her work ethics is something else. We have not seen such a thing in a long time in the ANC. We have written to ACE long before, asking for a meeting to discuss this. Till today, there's never been a professional response. But the DSG of the ANC, very consistent, very responsive, and she's not all over. She's very clear what needs to happen.
So as a result, a meeting is set for tomorrow, Wednesday?
Well, I wouldn't confirm that, but I know for sure that we'll be meeting very soon.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, the sticking points here, very quickly on this issue, is zero compensation.
No compensation at all.
And the issue of state custodianship.
Yes.
There you are steadfast that the state must own the land, although the party, the ANC, says it has to be certain portions of the land.
We disagree with that. We are owning water, Xoli. The state is the custodian of water. Have you ever felt in your entire life that your water that comes out of your tap doesn't belong to you, even when it is owned by the state? Not once have you ever felt that this water doesn't belong to me. No, we are talking minerals. The minerals of this country, the custodianship of gold, diamond, are in the hands of the state. And before that, these things were in the hands of private multinational companies. We went to take them from those people. The state owned those things. The mines are now applying. If they do not comply with the regulations, we can withdraw the license. So what is the problem? We want the state to do what it has done with water and minerals to the land.
All right. So I spoke to Matthew Sposa this morning,
yes,
who says this matter is one that should never be politicized. And I was asking him a question linked to what the chair of the ad hoc committee in Parliament, Matole Matsekga, is saying, that if this is allowed to fail, then we are certainly taking South Africa to something that will look like what happened in Zimbabwe. What would a compromise look like in your eyes on this issue of land?
Custodianship is a compromise. Remember, the EFF position is that the land must be nationalized. We're not saying the land must be nationalized. When it is nationalized, it is the state that takes the land and uses it for the benefit of all. The custodianship means that where your house is, where your factory is, where you have built your offices, where your farm is, remain as is, as long as its purpose has been clearly outlined to the state. Then the state can proceed to allocate portions of land to those who want to use it for a particular purpose.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. I'd like to move to the Political Party Funding Act.
Do you know how many title deeds are here in South Africa? 7 million title deeds. Or majority of them are owned by white people. Every time we speak, people say, what about the title deeds of our people? Our people don't have title deeds. Even those ones in Soweto, even those ones in Sishe where I come from, they don't have title deeds. That's why when they are given title deeds, it's a celebration. Where have you ever seen whites going to a celebration to receive title deeds? They wouldn't do that because they've got them. Our people do not have title deeds. And when you say, when you take the land to the state, you are taking the land from our people who have title deeds. We want our people to have lands with their title deeds. Our people do not own land.
And that's why, Mr. Malema, this whole issue of land makes sense to the people when that very moment you talk about the celebration when a title deed is given to you in the hand. But standing in the way of that right now is the back and forth between yourselves and the ANC and other parties in Parliament.
No,
because there's a deadline.
Standing in between that, our people don't want a paper. Our people want land. Don't confuse the two. Our people went to the public hearings. They spoke for themselves. On this one, you are not going to cheat, because we saw people speaking for themselves. They said the land must be in the hands of the state to benefit all. The land in Mozambique, where Afrikaners are going to now, is owned by the state. They are going there, where they know that the state owns the land, but they can't allow it here. The same way, they are prepared to partner with the state in Botswana to own diamonds, but they can't partner with the state in South Africa to own the minerals of South Africa. What is wrong with us? They are prepared to do certain things outside this country. When we ask them to do the same things in this country, they refuse, because we're weak and we're led by the weak.
All right. Well, you have eaten your time on Political Party Funding Act and how it's affecting your party. I'm not going to ask you about that, but what I am going to ask you about when we return is the infamous Ngandla trip. That, in a moment. We are going to talk about that in just a moment. This is Newsfeed. This is Newsfeed AM, and we are Wrapping up our discussions with the leader of the EFF, Julius Malema. Mr. Malema, there is one infamous trip that you did take to KZN. It was dubbed the Nkandla trip. What came out of those discussions?
Democracy and encouraging President Zuma to go to the Zondo Commission. And he raised all types of issues and his reservations. Some of the issues legitimately so. We listened to those, which he continued to engage with the ANC about them. And he ultimately took a decision not to go to the Zondo Commission, which was unfortunate.
What stood out for you on the reservations as to why?
Well, it's for him to tell that. I'm not his spokesperson. No. I wouldn't do that. He spoke, and it was a private meeting, and I want to respect that, that we had our own private meeting, and we agreed that some of those issues he may later want to use them in challenging some of the decisions that are about to be taken about him and his life. So we shouldn't deny him that opportunity.
But the country's democracy, as you say, rightly so, is sacrosanct.
Absolutely.
The protection of the constitution.
Absolutely.
For a former president to defy a commission that he himself set up, that's a very bad example for us law-abiding citizens in this country. That's something that you should have raised strongly with him.
But I agree with you. I'm not raising it in a studio. I raised it with him on his face. At some point, it was highly heated in the meeting. And the daughter, who was not part of the meeting, later joined because she could realize that it looks like there's going to be some problem here. So she had to come in and sit with us and made very informed inputs, which made all of us to calm down and start to refocus on matters at hand. I raised those issues sharply and many other issues with the president. I took a different approach that, to reach him, I would rather not speak to him through the media. I would rather go talk to him, which I did. And I'm happy that after I did that, many people followed to engage him and to hear his side of the story. One of the arguments I raised with him was that, Baba, one of the issues that you are raising are so critical, so much that if you are to raise them in the commission where the country will be paying the necessary attention, I can tell you will capture the imagination of a lot of us. Because he raises very, very important and sharp issues. Some of them I raised them myself in the Judicial Service Commission, and I raised them with the leadership of our country. But what the principle is, which was never a secret, I went when he said he's not going to appear before the commission, and when he said he's got problems with the Constitutional Court, I became a bit worried, and I said we can have all types of disagreement, but institutions of our democracy must be protected, and you guys are the ones who taught us that there must be a final arbiter on every matter, and if the Constitutional Court wrongly or rightly has made a decision, we can't be seen to be, attacking such an institution. He raised these issues very sharply.
As we end our conversation, the late Zambian president, Kenneth Kaunda, is being remembered as the father of African independence. I'd like for you to reflect on his contribution in the anti-colonial and anti-apartheid struggle, but do that for me through the events that we saw taking place at the Pan-African Parliament, and whether that kind of behavior lends itself to the ideals of what Kenneth Kaunda and those that he led with at the time when they formed the Organization of African Union. It is something that will ultimately be realized when we see such behavior at the Pan-African Parliament.
Well, robustness in a democracy is very important. The unity of African people must never be mechanical. We must not just wear a suit and for the sake of appearing to be united, even when wrong things are done, we accept them. Kenneth Kaunda's AU, which came after OAU, accepted the rotational principle for leadership of AU, so that every region in the continent can feel represented and can feel to be belonging to the AU. So we know for a fact that both Central, West, Eastern, North and South always occupy positions of leadership at the AU based on rotational principle, which the Pan-African Parliament is refusing. 3 times they refused that, and we're gentlemen like you in our ties and suit. No, well, in the next, we'll attend to it in the next conference, in the next assembly. Until now, when we took a different approach, the continent listened, those who are opposed to it listened. The AU wrote to PAP and said all organs of AU must comply with rotational principle, which happened now on NEPAD CEO. NEPAD was not a part of the AU organs, but it came now, and they said here, the CEO position shall be occupied through rotational principles, because that's how organs of the AU are governed. So that's what Kenneth Kaunda stood for the unity of Africa by making Africans belonging and feeling that they do belong to the structures of the continent and to the continent itself. I mean, he was a leader to the end, a man who went to Zimbabwe at his age, underground, quietly, to persuade his peers to do the right thing. And we have what we have now in Zimbabwe as a result of an old age intervention. We have this democracy, we owe it to him. I mean, Lusaka, the headquarters of Mkhonto Wesizwe, is as a result of this man who allowed our people to go and stay there, to even establish the headquarters there. Something that you guys are not doing. But when you see Zambians today, you want to ban them, you call them names. When they allowed you to stay in their country, when people were bombed in Lesotho, killed innocent Lesotho people, when today come to us to look for greener pastures, the same way we went to them to look for a democracy from their countries. Today we call them names. So we should learn from Kenneth Kaunda that artificial borders should never define us. That's why at his age, he was pained by what was happening in Zimbabwe, and he compromised his retirement to go and resolve those issues. Why? Zimbabwe is Zambia, and Zambia is Zimbabwe, because we are one thing.
Mr. Malema, you take the time to get to the point sometimes, but I'm going to be in trouble for this. But one of the lessons, though, from the Kaunda leadership is that it was a painful lesson for him because he nationalized the country's mines that were producing copper at the time to the decimation of the country's economy.
Yes.
You advocate, you're a strong proponent of nationalization. Is that something that you're willing to tamper with as you grow in politics?
No. When you take the land in Zimbabwe, South Africa should have followed, Mozambique should have followed, Malawi should have followed, so that they've got nowhere to go. And they say, we now have to negotiate this thing because it's becoming a continental project. The same way with the copper in Zambia, we should have followed. But unfortunately, we didn't have our democracy then. The other African states, they should have nationalized their own minerals in joining that progressive program of Zambia. And by doing so, the markets will have no option but to listen to us. But if you nationalize in isolation, you'll be isolated by the world. That's why this continent must reclaim that rightfully belongs to them, so that when you isolate us as one. And when you isolate us as one, you will not have mineral resources because platinum is, majority of it is found here. Where will you get it if we are one?
It's the shortest response you have given. Thank you very much for your time, leader of the Economic Freedom Fighters, Julius Malema. Thanks indeed for making time to come and talk to us.
Thank you very much.
welcome to talk to you. Indeed, it's been a pleasure. Thanks indeed. Well, that's how we wrap up Newsfeed, the AM edition. It is the Tuesday edition, and what a pleasure it has been to talk to you.